This episode of Scrolling to Death is sponsored by Bark Technologies. Bark offers parents advanced content monitoring for all of your child's devices. Bark is literally helping to save lives and has alerted parents to millions of life-threatening situations like self-harm and severe bullying. More on Bark in the episode notes. Welcome to the Big Tech Gut Check here on Scrolling to Death. This is a weekly update for parents on all things social media and big tech for the week of December 16th, 2024. It will be the last update of this year, but not the last episode. I have a lot of fun things coming up. I'll give you a sneak peek now. On Monday, the 23rd, I have an interview with Danny Alachi, who's down in Australia. He's going to fill us in on the social media ban that passed in Australia for kids under 16, what that means, and if we think we're going to see that happen here in the United States. I also have an interview with Tim Estes, who is of Angel Kids AI. He is an expert on AI and chatbots, and he's going to help us understand what the hell is going on with the chatbots that are abusing children. And to close out the year, I have an interview with the super interesting Sean Killingsworth, who used a flip phone in high school after he realized how addictive and harmful his smartphone was. This is a super cool one to share with your teenager. I think it'll inspire them to reassess their relationship with technology. I'm going to kick off with some sad news today, unfortunately. Millions of parents were devastated to learn this week that the Kids Online Safety Act was not placed into the year-end package that Speaker Johnson put together, so this bill will not move forward this year. There's no other way to say it than Big Tech won. Speaker Johnson put the influence of Big Tech over children. He continued to spew Big Tech narrative about this bill being about content and limiting free speech of the conservative side, which was simply not true. In the past 3 years, Meta spent around $90 million lobbying against COSA. They're now spending $10 billion on a facility in Louisiana, where Speaker Johnson is located. But despite all of this, huge strides were made because of the voices of parents. We got this bill passed in the Senate 91-3. We got 155 bipartisan members of Congress to agree on a topic, which is so difficult to do. I'm going to play a clip from an interview that Speaker Johnson did with Fox News this week. He addresses the Meta data center in Louisiana, but also gives us some hope that a kids online safety bill will be passed early next year.
Speaking of that, abuse of children, we've done so many stories on kids that are abused online, either exploited through AI. They take off their clothes and make it appear that this little girl who's 14 years old actually posted a nude picture when that really didn't happen. We've done all these stories, suicide stories, eating disorders. So there's a bill, the Kids Online Safety Act, and it's stalled in the House. I know that conservatives are worried that it's going to censor conservative voices. Can you dive into that a little? Give us an example of how that could happen?
Yeah, let me say first, Senator Marsha Blackburn, Representative Kathy McMorris Rogers, everyone who worked so hard to get COSA, that's the bill COSA, together, are to be commended for their work. We all share the same urgent desire, and that is to protect children. I've devoted my life to that. I did it in the legal arena before I became a lawmaker in the courts. But we've got to make sure we do this right. And when you're talking about regulating online content, you have to make sure that it doesn't provide an avenue to censor conservative speech. Right. And I used to be a constitutional law litigator. A lot of my colleagues in that space are very concerned about this. I mean, religious liberty advocates and pro-family organizations very concerned that we got to make sure the language is tight. So we're almost there. I just feel like this bill doesn't go far enough in that protection, and we'll get it done early next year. They'll be able to take a victory lap, and we'll protect children.
Mr. Speaker, we've had some guests on who have addressed this. They are behind this. This is a bipartisan bill. Both sides like it. It is passed the Senate. It is sitting on your desk. We had a guest a couple of days ago who suggested that one of the reasons you're not taking it up is because Meta, which would be impacted, is going to build a $10 billion facility for AI in northern Louisiana.
That's a creative argument. I mean, that's not even in my district, okay? Look, we're glad of the investment in Louisiana, but it has nothing whatsoever to do with this.
So it looks like we'll have to spend a few more months watching kids get harmed and killed by social media before lawmakers will prioritize our children's lives. Moving on, let's talk about TikTok, and some pretty interesting stuff is going on. Remember that in April, the National Security Act passed unanimously. So Congress identified that the ownership of TikTok, which is ByteDance and is in China, is a national security threat. They found that ByteDance is under the influence of the Chinese Communist Party, the government in China. That's super concerning, given that the CCP has access to all of our data, 170 million Americans that use TikTok here in the United States. ByteDance was given until January 19th to sell TikTok, or it will be removed from the U.S. app stores. To be clear, the TikTok app will not go away. If you have it, it stays on your phone. But there will be no more updates and new users cannot download it. TikTok and ByteDance continually deny that they are under the control of the CCP, even though TikTok employees have admitted to this. So TikTok keeps trying every avenue to overturn the law and keeps getting struck down. Next step is the Supreme Court. On January 10th, the Supreme Court justices will hear arguments from TikTok and decide if this law can move forward as scheduled. I will keep you updated in real time as this unfolds. But in my personal opinion, this law needs to stay. TikTok is not only a national security threat, it's spyware. It's feeding children harmful and deadly content in the algorithm, and TikTok's own internal data shows that teens can become addicted to TikTok in as little as 35 minutes. Does that sound like something we want millions of American children to be accessing? Now, a research update that I think we'll find really interesting. Pew Research Center surveyed U.S. teens from 13 to 17 between the months of September and October of this year. YouTube topped the list of most popular social media apps that are used by teens. 9 in 10 teens report using YouTube, and 73% say they use YouTube every single day. This is concerning, and what we need to know is about a new report that was put out by the Center for Countering Digital Hate. To recap the report really quick, what CCDH found was that YouTube is pushing teen users towards harmful, dangerous content like self-harm, suicide content, and eating disorder content. 1 in 3 recommendations for teenage test accounts were for harmful eating disorder videos. 2 in 3 were for weight loss content. And then if that wasn't bad enough, 1 in 20 videos suggested were for self-harm or suicide. So the fact that we have 9 out of 10 teens on YouTube, most of them every single day, is concerning because this is the type of stuff that they're getting served. Okay, so other findings by Pew Research Center. TikTok, Instagram, and Snapchat remain widely used by teens. 6 in 10 teens say they use TikTok and Instagram, and 55% say they use Snapchat. Teenage use of Facebook and X is steeply declining. Today, 32% of teens say they use Facebook, and this is down from 71% in 2014. So we still have most of our teens using social media on a daily basis. The average is about 4.8 hours per day. And the fact is that social media has proven to be unsafe for teens. When they use it 3 or more hours a day, it doubles their risk for anxiety and depression. This stat is going to inform some legislation and laws that will potentially pass next year. Maybe we'll even see a ban for under 16 like they did in Australia. But in your home, the strong recommendation is to delay your child's use of social media until at least 16, and to delay in community. Find other families who are willing to delay with you. There may be some hemming and hawing and complaining from your teen. In fact, there probably will be. But there's actually no data to suggest that they suffer any negative consequences when you keep them off social media. In fact, teens who are off social media most often thrive, and they will thank you later. I'm going to end with a couple updates related to parents whose children use an iPhone or an iPad. What I've learned recently is we cannot trust the App Store ratings. Many parents rely on the parental controls to just limit the apps downloaded by App Store rating, and we can't do that. An expert I interviewed this week named Sarah Gardner, she said, quote, App Store ratings are fake. So how it works is that the app itself fills out a form, rating themselves on the different categories that would give them an age rating. And then it goes through an automated process at Apple, and Apple very rarely kicks back the app to a lower age rating. One important example of this is that Apple pushed back on TikTok. TikTok wanted a 12 plus age rating. Apple said, no, you have nudity and drug content and all these horrible things. You need to be 17 plus. But did Apple bump TikTok up to 17 plus? No, TikTok is still 12 plus in the App Store. And why is this? It's because Apple makes a ton of money off of App Store downloads. So if it's a lower age rating, they get more downloads, more money. It's a profit center. Apple is prioritizing profit over child safety. Apple is also facing heat for the lack of safety within iMessage. There's a new lawsuit that was filed by survivors of child sexual abuse material against Apple. So from what I've learned, predators use iMessage. They bring kids from apps like Discord and social media over to iMessage because it's end-to-end encrypted and they can hide illegal behavior. iMessage is a really tricky place for our kids to be able to chat, and it's hard for parents to monitor. There are safer ways for our children to chat with friends on their devices, and there are new companies that I've been in contact with creating safer messaging apps. I'll be in touch on that soon. But there are also safer devices like Bark and Gab and Trumi and Pinwheel. Any of these devices are safer than Apple devices for your child. And if you are giving your child a device this holiday, whether it's an Apple device or a child-safe device, be sure you're giving the gift of access, not ownership. I'm going to quote Kristen Jensen at Defend Young Minds. She did a post about this on Instagram just yesterday. Giving access instead of ownership puts parents in control of passwords, parental controls, and time limits, making sure tech use aligns with your family values. Even if your child is receiving the gift of tech from a family member or a grandparent, your family's tech rules still apply. The device does not belong to your child. And as we enter into the new year, I'm going to be working a lot on my own interaction with devices. I'm realizing that I spend so much time worrying about my kids in tech, our kids in tech, that I've been ignoring how tech is affecting me. And I'm realizing how much my behavior as a parent will affect how my children prioritize technology. So soon I'm going to be receiving 2 different dumb phones, a light phone and a wise phone. These are simpler phones created for adults. I'm going to be testing these devices and documenting these tests so that you can think about potentially integrating a safer, less addictive device into your life. But even if you're not ready for that change, I want to lay out in upcoming episodes some simple adjustments that we can make as parents to the way we interact with devices to set that example for our children and to improve our own mental health. So that's a goal for myself for the new year, a New Year's resolution, I guess. And I hope that you'll reflect on that as well. Thank you so much for being here, for listening to the Big Tech Gut Check, but more importantly, for being on this ride together. Parenting in a tech world is really super frustrating and really super confusing. And it's my goal to help clear the air, to make sure we have all the information at hand so that we can protect our children in the best ways possible. So thank you for an incredible year. I am just super grateful.